hard to be photographed, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of us wouldn't have found it very difficult just to have photographs taken, to pose for photographs. So to be on camera like this is very nerve-wracking.
And you're also very aware of the fact that you're speaking on behalf of people as well, and you want to make sure that everything you say is very right and very correct and also powerful. If just one or two fat women actually watches this program and it makes them challenge the way that they're oppressed and think about it, then that's all the reason I wanted to do it. Definitely.
There's a lot of fat women who are agoraphobic, and no wonder.
Understandably.
Because, you know...
Well, it takes great strength to walk along the streets, you know. Or to get on a bus and people won't sit next to you in the bus because they think you're taking up too much of the seating or whatever.
That's a very common one, isn't it?
Yeah. So I know for a fact that I don't sit down on the tube unless I'm on the end seats, you know. I never sit in the middle because I'd be taking up too much room, you know.
Yeah. And yet sometimes men will be sitting there, thin men, with their legs wide apart and their arms like that,
really loose. Just territorial.
And when you find yourself actually colluding with it, when I find myself in a crowded place and I think to myself, you know, maybe I am actually taking up too much room, I think, well, why that? You know, I take up the room I need, no more, no less. And, you know, I should just be allowed to live my life on that basis.
Yeah. Well, once I went on a 5-hour journey from Cornwall with another friend of mine who's fat, and we couldn't sit in the seats. We had to stand the whole way. Yeah. And people kept saying to us, oh, there's plenty of seats. And my friend just said, oh, no, we're travel seat. We have to stand by the window. But people didn't realise that. They just weren't comfortable and just weren't accessible to us because those were tables
and everything.
No,
I mean, there's also cafes and restaurants that exclude us.
Well, a few years ago, a friend of mine and I read a book about fat oppression. So what we thought was we should try to write an article in the British feminist press to try and get it put on the political agenda here so they wouldn't be seen as an issue that was worth, you know, considering, that would be recognised as an oppressed group. And once the article was published in a feminist magazine, from that we got lots of responses, and this is how the group's grown and grown.
Fat is such a negative word. It's used so much as an insult towards people, and it's something that we've all been fighting to not be all our lives, and we've always been told that we're ugly and disgusting.
You can see people reel back, and they want to say plump, or they want to say large, or they want to say something big, anything. But when you say fat, it's like you've hit them in the face in some way. Oh, don't use that word, you know.
I hate that's right. I mean, I think it's the same idea as like with black liberation or gay liberation. It's about reclaiming a word that's been used to abuse a whole group of people. So I think that the reason why we use fat is because it's a word we're trying to make positive and celebrate, as opposed to obese, which is very clinical, or overweight, which implies there's a norm from which we're digressing. This big, you know? It's so tiny.
Yeah, ridiculous.
And the top's that big as well.
Yeah.
It's like for sort of size 6 almost.
Yeah.
You know?
It just seems that sort of if you get beyond size 14, then you have to dress in a certain way, and you just have to dress in a frumpy style. There's no other alternative. You have to make such an effort. It's so difficult, so disheartening to walk along somewhere like Oxford Street, biggest shopping street in Britain, and find that there's just very little that you can actually wear.
Statistics say there's over 50% of the women in this country are over size 16, but what's catered for is women who are really size 10 and size 12. I mean, even 14, often they're very skimpy 14s, you know. And I think that there's just that kind of the Western ideal it's getting smaller and smaller. Yeah. Everybody says that fat people are ugly and they don't take any care of their appearance. And then it's a vicious circle because we can't actually get anything, can we? We just, we can't get clothes.
I don't see why just because you are fat, you can't be aware about how you look and how you are perceived. Why does that make you non-human? Why just because if you're large, are you supposed to stop existing? And that's, so why can't fat women or thin women or anybody be conscious about how they look. It is natural.
Roly-poly dinner lady. You would have thought they thought of a better title than that.
I think it's disgusting, quite frankly.
Woman sacked for being too fat. That's a bit better. I had this letter from Dr. Hodgson to say that I was, like it says, extremely overweight. And then I got a letter from Stafford saying that my employment was terminated. And
the doctor hadn't seen her?
No, hadn't seen
examined her. He didn't know what she was like, how fit she was, where she swims. She goes jogging in the park. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. This is the bit that got me. When I got this letter. Our experience is that, given the heavy work the kitchen assistants do, there is an increased risk of muscle and joint injuries to those who are very overweight. This was only a small kitchen, not much bigger than my own. And most of the preparation of the vegetables was done by machine anyway. All I had to do was put a water in a pan and lift the pan onto the stove. And sort of every other day, all I would do was wash up. The job I've got at present, which I won't mention, but I've got the job on condition that I go back and be weighed every month to 6 weeks.
Which is very demeaning.
Personally, me, am I healthy? I think I am. I'm trying to learn to swim. I try to ride a cycle. I try and play sport as much as I can, which isn't very much. But I think it is possible to be fit and fat. And I think it's just this myth that we're fed that you've got to be a sort of unhealthy fat slob sitting around eating cream buns all day long. That's what fat is in society, in the media. You know, you're just sort of disgusting, you know, out of control, slightly dirty, repulsive. And why should you be? But also, I mean, it's very difficult to do the activities. Fat women are often kept away from access to sport. You know, you can't buy a leotard in the right size.
That's right.
If you go to a class, a dance class, to keep fit, you're always the fattest person there. And you feel, you know, you feel like a leper, so you don't do it. So that simply, you know, just helps
That's right.
to create this image that you're not doing it.
I mean, when we go to the doctors, we know when you're fat is seen as the first thing that they notice, even if it's
that's right.
if you just go with an ingrowing toenail that you're told to go on a diet.
Here's a coffee, Mum.
Thanks. How old are you in that one?
16.
I guess I'm about probably 17. That was a school trip.
Yeah.
Aren't we similar?
Yeah, this is outside my parents' flat.
I mean, you can see my hip bones. You can see
my hip bones. Not to mention the bust.
I know. Oh, I must have
Amazingly.
weighed, I don't know, 9 stone something then.
I think I must have weighed about 9.5. That's the thinnest I've ever been.
And that one there, look at my waist. I mean, I'm
Tiny. It must be 18 inches.
something like that. I don't remember really.
At the bikini.
You in a
The
bikini, gosh. I got fatter ever since I had kids, really. I mean, there's a photo here of when I was pregnant with Anna. Have you seen this one before?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I've fluctuated a lot in weight. Have you?
Same.
Yes.
I got fat after I had Simon, who's my only child, and fluctuated a bit, but I've been much the same since about 1975, I suppose.
People make all kind of assumptions about why you're fat. They assume it's to do with just eating all the time. But in my case, it's not. I mean, the fact that I've fluctuated in weight because I have dieted and then not dieted.
Fat is often connected with compulsive eating. You must be binging, you must be eating cream buns all day. But, I mean, I eat a normal amount.
I think some fat people eat too much sometimes, the same way as other people do. I don't think that the two automatically follow.
And that's where the problem lies, isn't it? Because we're always associated with being greedy and overeating. So no matter how little we eat, people always think because we're fat that we're eating too much.
Because you're fat, people focus on you when you're eating because it's just that whole thing goes hand in hand. So they just assume you're eating far too much or you're eating more often than other people do.
Yes. It's hard to get away from.
And then that makes you guilty about the food that you are
That's right. So then you're more self-conscious about it and you're back to thinking about food all the time, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
can see, I was a skinny child. That's me when I was about 7. So by the time I was about 10 or 11, I was quite big for that age. I look older than 11, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then when I went to school, I looked around and I thought, oh, I'm the biggest here, you know, I've got to diet. So I went on a diet and I ended up being sort of mildly anorexic. And I was very thin. I was just over 6 stone probably by the end of it. And that's when I was about 12. And then all the way through adolescence, I dieted and binged, survived on a yoghurt a day, and then, you know, like the next day wanted lots of food. And that's the size I was when I was about 17 or 18. And I think it's so damaging when you're young for your whole adolescence to be kind of like focused on food and size and being acceptable.
If women constantly diet, then it actually is really harmful to the system.
It's the yo-yoing in weight that causes stress on the system. I think if you maintain a sort of constant weight, it's much healthier. I mean, losing stones and then putting them back on.
That's right, and I've been there. I mean, I've lost 2 and 3 stones and then put it all back on.
Women in the London Fat Women's group have been dieting constantly, often from childhood onwards, and feel now is the time to stop. They've been dieting for too long and it's damaged their health. Have you any views on long-term effects of dieting?
Most people who diet find that dieting is depriving themselves for a time. At the end of the diet, when they have been going without and feeling bad because of the going without, they revert to having and eat they haven't changed their eating pattern, and they start a yo-yo swing, which means that you end up sometime after the diet heavier than you were when you went on it. That's most people's experience.
What about the fact that continuous dieting has an effect on the body's metabolism?
When you diet the first time, what you lose is mainly meat, muscle, active tissue, which needs quite a bit of food to keep going. When you put the weight back after losing it, your body says, oh my goodness, that was a famine. So what you put back is storage material, fat, which has less active needs. So that whereas you could maintain your weight in 1,800 calories. After you've dieted and lost, you may stay steady on 14. Do it again, you may stay steady on less than 1,000, which for other people who've never dieted would be a weight-losing diet.
Hello, we're Heather and Barbara from the London Fat Women's Group. And we formed because we believe that fat women are oppressed in this society and abused and exploited because of our size.
Obviously there are a lot of overweight people in the community, and I feel a lot of people are not happy being overweight. We see a lot of ladies here that are very miserable about their size, maybe because of social pressure, which is very high at the moment.
No, surely it's not. They're miserable about their size. They're miserable about the society's reaction to their size. If fat women are actually allowed to exist in society as fat women, without any of the persecution, then there wouldn't be companies like this that are actually profiteering off persecution of women.
We don't tell clients to come, they ask for our help. I want it to be the last diet they go on because I believe that constant diet does a lot of damage to the body. I want it to be their last diet.
Society is putting massive social pressures on women.
I agree, society puts social pressure
and you
on
acting
me
like you're
to
a
stay
service,
slim,
yes.
But we have a lot of ladies out there that desperately want to be slim, and we want to help them to do that in the
yes,
best
so you're
possible way.
colluding with social pressures and exploitation of women. You're promoting an obsession so that women are more obsessed with how they look than anything else than women.
At best, you're a money-making industry which is feeding off the persecution and oppression of women.
Any social need provides a service, and that becomes a business.
Any social sense of persecution provides a need. If people were not persecuted, if women were not persecuted, and if they were not shaped and formed by the media, you wouldn't exist.
People vary genetically, and some people are very thrifty converters of food into weight, so it doesn't take much in their diet to make them quite big people. They're designed to be big, they've had big grandparents, big parents. These are the people who come to major grief trying to fit to society's norms of skinny little elves like willow wands. A normal diet will keep those people happy to a design which would be recognised as healthy in other cultures, Fiji or Rio. It's just the West that says, no, anything expansive, generous is yuck.
Like we were saying, advertisements, any sort of shop window, it all seems to put the fat person down. So you feel pressurised into losing weight.
The healthy weight for anybody is the weight they naturally maintain without having to worry about it, without having to agonise about it, without having to go on diets which mean, nowadays, many of them are so cranky that you deprive yourself of essential nutrients.
Yeah.
People end up with no calcium in their bones and teeth falling out. Terrible things happen.
I remember the first time when you said to me, Anna, a few months ago, I really hate my body. I think you actually got hold of a bit of flesh. And I felt really annoyed, you know, that you wanted to sort of embark on this life of dieting that women
It's
that
not
women
a life
do.
of dieting.
Well, I
but
know you don't see it like that, but I do.
No, I don't
see.
see it like that at all.
But I mean, how can I don't know. It's to do with I want you to like your body. You see, people come in different shapes and sizes. I just want you to accept that, because I've spent so long in dieting and getting fatter and thinner and thinking that that'll solve all life's problems if I'm thin. And I didn't want to spend the rest of my life doing that.
I mean, if you are built slim, you are built slim. If you are built fat, that is the way you are. And why should you be made to feel that you have got to look slim? You start to diet and you get miserable. And it's a vicious circle, so you may as well just forget dieting, eat normally and be happy.
I'm not a problem eater or a pig, so don't go telling me what shape to be. Sing out the message. Beautiful is big. Why should I let some earnest, bony prig, an expert in nutrition, slander me? I'm not a problem eater or a pig. So, sisters, tell them you don't care a fig. Cast off the corset of conformity. Sing out the message. Beautiful is big.
Last week it was my birthday, and I think if you haven't had a relationship for a while, things like birthdays and New Year are markers of that absence and that like continuing gap in your life. And although I don't think it should be that important to people, I think it is at times. It really hurts. It's really difficult to sort of know that if you choose it, you don't often meet somebody you really feel attracted to. But also, if you're fat, you're less likely to find that they're attracted to you. Do you find
It makes
that?
it much more difficult to actually approach somebody if you do actually want to get to know them or fancy them.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you've got to have a certain amount of confidence to make the running anyway. And if you're forever told how fat and ugly you are, then it's very difficult. You've got to sort of feel very positive about yourself.
I think that's one reason why people tend to think that fat women aren't sexual, because it's very hard for you to sort of give off that vibe because you've been rejected so many times.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
And it becomes more and more like it's like alienating. You think how can I
do I
even
get past
be
this?
a sexual person? How do I get beyond all those blocks and those barriers and the hatred of other people? And it's like feeling that you're not desirable. It's really difficult to sort of challenge that and say, well, there's a whole range of possibilities, for desire.
So there's almost the feeling that if you're fat, then you've just got to give up on sex completely. So
Well, you've got a long-term love,
I have,
haven't you, Ruth?
yeah, I'm lucky. But I mean, the other side of it is that you just, maybe you just have to write off sex for good, because otherwise, it's just too frightening to go out there
I think
and
a
have
lot
relationships.
of fat people feel like that, and there's some fat people don't even identify themselves sexually or just stay celibate for years and years because it's too scary to keep taking those risks when you've been abused in the past, isn't it? And it's very depressing. But I mean, we're trying to fight back on that as well, aren't we? And saying that
Once
we
you
are.
start loving yourself, then other people will love you.
Well, that's important.
Well, at least we hope they will. Oh, hello. I'm ringing on behalf of the London Fat Women's Group, and we're currently recording a television programme, Open Space. I'm wondering if you're prepared to make a comment on an advertisement that was placed in Heartlands in a November issue of City Limits. The ad is, idealistic, intelligent, humorous man, 37, seeks true meaning of friendship, loves music, cooking, wit, zen, hates lies, fat people, dogma, custard and lonely hearts columns. So we were wondering, why you printed that ad, which is so offensive to fat people.
I mean, you can either look at the magazine as a whole, or you can focus on one or two points that might have cropped up through the year. The only one I'm aware of, in fact, is that one you mentioned.
It's a very regular feature of your magazine.
It's a very regular feature.
That not this particular kind of ad in the classified section, but generally abusive, jokey comments.
Well, I mean, it's like me saying to you, you're going to be on the Open Space programme.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this is a BBC programme.
Yeah.
And, well, therefore I could cite you lots of examples. BBC screening of the Nelson Mandela concert at Wembley, and the pressurisation of performers not to make political statements. the Spotlight programme that was shown in Northern Ireland only, which interviewed the Gibraltar eyewitnesses. And I can say to you, well, who are you one to talk to me when you're actually using the resources of people who are, let's say, less than squeaky clean themselves? I mean, what's your defence of your position then?
I'd just like to say that, you know, there's never been a programme that's been positive about fat people on British television. And so we just have to use the media in the way that any other press group would use the media, even though as a whole it may produce some oppressive programmes.
Yeah, beautiful lady. Why are you so damned aggressive, eh? You should not make the war, you should make the love.
Does anybody fancy this Italian before we shoot him?
He could be quite amusing, I suppose, for an hour or two.
I have the last request.
What is it?
I must wear the blindfold.
Before you are shot?
Before I make the love.
You see fat people in picture postcards. If you look at fat people on television, you know, in situation comedies, they're always the ones that are the butt of humour, never the ones that are dealing it out. And it's just become enshrined in our common sense that fat people are stupid, fat people are ignorant, and therefore fat people, you know, deserve to be laughed at.
My darling Lady Hamilton, my little dove.
Oh, be fair, he's only seeing half of her.
I was in my cabin, and suddenly the whole ship tilted.
I'm not surprised. You want to stay near the middle.
Yeah, I said, what was it? There was an advertising a car the other night, and they got this huge woman sitting on the bonnet, and she stuffs this egg in her face. And I mean, what an awful image for a fat person to have. And I'm not like that, and neither of them is my family. It's against all that I feel and all that I'm saying. But yes, I worry that they'll get fat because I don't want them to suffer the ridicule that fat people get. I don't want my girls to have to go through that.
I think in general it's to do with images of women. I mean, all women are oppressed by the way they're portrayed in the media because we're portrayed as objects, we're portrayed as something to be looked at, so that the thing to value about us is our appearance, not our intellect, not the contribution that we can make to society, not our ability to manage a home, hold down a job or any of those things, purely for our decorativeness. And if you're not going to conform to that, then you've got to be punished. And part of it with fat women is punishing them for refusing to conform to how society wants them to be. And the punishment is the abuse you get on the street, because in the end, it does intimidate you to go out.
Sure, everywhere you go, every time you walk along the street, you're going to get abuse from people.
And also, if you're feeling good about yourself, and then somebody just goes, you fat bitch or something,
right.
you know.
Yeah. You're standing in front of your mirror before you go out, and you look at yourself and you think, OK, I'm out. And as soon as you go outside the street, someone says, oh, you know, whatever, you fat bitch or whatever. Yeah. You know, and so other people, they can think in their mind, they have their idea of how they look, and they think, fine, I'm okay, and they just go out and they don't have to think about anything. And a fat person, every step they take down the road, it's like, am I going to get it? Am I going to get it from this person, the next person? Are those people coming towards me going to say something? Did you read about when the Hippodrome was actually opened up? Peter Stringfellow said on the radio and in the press that he wasn't going to let fat women in, not fat people, but fat women in, because they were too unattractive, and his club was for only attractive people, right?
It's men who control the advertising industry, men in the main who control the fashion industry, and it's those images that are being put down onto women, and the media colludes in it. What do people get out of making fun of fat people? What do people get out of making racist jokes? In the end, it's one group of people oppressing another because it's in their interest to do so. And as long as men can make women feel that they've got to look a particular way and they've got to do this and they've got to do that and life is all about pleasing those men, then men's interest is going to be served.
It was really good to actually see a film that had portrayed a fat woman as a heroine,
wonderful.
And especially as a sexual person as well. It's really good. Well, it's not that often that you actually get a positive image of a fat woman in magazines, on television, and when you actually get it in a film, it's wonderful to see a reflection of yourself in the media, which is just so rare.
than where you've been. A coffee machine won't leave some.
Well, if you have no positive images, if you have nothing to go on, and there's just sort of this void, then there isn't that time for celebration. And to find your beauty in yourself, when you can do that, then you have every right to celebrate, and you have every right to find these images that allow you to celebrate who you are and who you can be. Life should be about choices. It shouldn't be a fait accompli where you are born and you have to be a certain way, and if you don't, then you have to spend your whole life existing with something that you can never be and never being satisfied with who you are.
An important part is that we're trying to fight back now, and we're learning to challenge abuse. And if somebody shouts abuse at me or laughs at me, then I'll try to go up to them. Or at least I'll shout something back, and I won't just become this space that can be abused, this object that's just
walking
ridiculed.
smaller and smaller as you go.
That's right. I won't take it inside. I'll fight back now and see that it's out there.
I always go up to people and say, "No, why did you say that to me? What makes you think that you can say that? And why would you even? Why would it come into your head to say that to me? What's the point?"
And that puts us on their agenda. That we ask we're human beings. We're not just.
It makes it, at least if you're asking them a question, they can ask themselves that question. Why did I say that? What was the point?
If you've always been fat and then you diet and you never get thin or you never stay thin, then you've got to learn either to say, well, I'm going to remain like this, I'm going to try to be positive and I'm going to survive and be strong, or you say, well, I'm going to continue to punish myself and starve myself and be abused and I'm not going to do anything about it. And I think we've all taken that stand that we're not going to be abused anymore, and not take it inside but leave it out there, because it is out there. It's the media, it's all the institutions that tell us that we don't deserve to exist. It isn't us. The challenge leads to taking it out there and stopping hating ourselves. Take God, as we get tired.
Now I know women can be strong, and we must struggle to set ourselves free. Fat women healthy, happy and proud, fighting for liberty. Que sera, sera. We know that our dreams can be. The future is ours, you see. We can make things change. We can make